getting so close to the vehicle, perhaps trying to sneak a peek inside to see if he sees anybody else in the car. Because again, at this point, from what we've been able to gather, they only think one person is in the vehicle. But of course, with these darkly tinted windows, it's often hard to tell.
Ileana, we know the want on this is a reckless, possible DUI here. Do we know the circumstances
Milky, what's up?
Of what happened when they tried to stop him?
So it was initially in the East LA area with the Sheriff's Department. I believe it was on surface streets. In fact, it was on surface streets. I remember them calling out 4th Street. So he was traveling through the surface streets there in the East LA area. It's unclear if it was just a deputy who spotted him driving recklessly or if it was something like a DUI checkpoint and the vehicle took off.
Let's see if it works.
He quickly jumped on the freeway. He jumped on that 60 eastbound, and that's when the calls started going into the CHP to see if they could take over the pursuit, since it was now on the freeway, and they're always going to be best equipped to handle a chase on the highway. And again, eventually the Sheriff's Department simply let it go because it got too dangerous, but that's when the CHP agency was able to take over the pursuit in the Ontario area.
Once again, we see that CHP officer. He's moved back to, what, 3 or 4 car lengths, but he seems to be inching up just a little bit.
Hit the thumbs up.
Yeah, let me write it out. Yeah, there's
What's up,
actually
DJ
a
and
few.
RG and Lewis
3 total, but
and
the 2 in the rear
Shinji
appear to be running a
Vendra
traffic
and
break.
Sasha
So
and JT.
they appear to just be trying to slow down the vehicle traffic behind him. And I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like, because we are starting to see a little bit of a slowdown behind the pursuit vehicle. But the one that's really only actively in pursuit is this lead unit.
I wasn't in
that
bed,
just keeps
my hair's
inching
all fucked
closer
up.
and
I was
closer to
riding
the
a
pursuit
bike.
vehicle.
Give us an idea of exactly where he is. You said he was coming up on Yorba Linda just a few minutes ago. Has he reached that and passed it at this point?
Prediction.
Yeah,
all right,
he already
let's run
passed it, and now we're in Anaheim Hills. So again, the nearest freeway that's going to be coming up is the 55 freeway. So westbound on the 91, coming up to the 55. This is where the 55 begins. So he's not able to go north on the 55, but he could take it south if he wanted to. But then the 55 ends in the Newport Beach area, so it wouldn't really take him very far.
Okay, predictions up.
He's just
Is
gonna
that
stay
like
westbound on the
button
91.
just going?
And Ileana, this car was not
stopped?
reported stolen, so there's a pretty good likelihood they've run the plates. They know who's driving.
They have ran the plates, Colleen, and it's interesting. They said they got 2 names back on the registration, so they don't really know for sure who's the person that's driving the vehicle. So at this point, that wasn't really able to give them too much information as to who they may be chasing.
And we believe there's only one person in the car at this point?
Yeah, at this point, they're saying that it is a male that is behind the wheel here. And again, reckless driving was the initial want, which is always interesting to me when it's reckless driving and the person's actually driving pretty well, because he's been able to stick to his lane pretty well for the most part. We really haven't seen anything in terms of close calls or collisions. And I think a big part of that is the fact that he's on the freeway. So there's no pedestrians, there's no cross traffic, there's no stoplights, there's no red lights. So it does take a lot of
now it's stopped because I manually turned it off.
Out of the equation when the vehicle is on a freeway and they are sticking to it for long periods of time, like what we're witnessing.
All right, that should work.
Does he appear to be moving over at all?
Hit the like button.
Yeah, he appears to be moving over to the right. So again, the 55 was going to be his next option. So I don't know if perhaps he's intending to get off there. I know Tustin Avenue is also
what car is that?
coming
I'm not
up here,
sure.
But you see that CHP officer again? He's not going to try a pit. So it's interesting to me that he's getting that close to the car. And the reason he's not going to try a pit is just the speeds are way too fast. The freeway is nice and wide open. So if this driver were going 35 miles an hour or less, then I would venture to say he'd probably try it. But at these speeds, to make a car spin out, you could seriously injure whoever's in the vehicle.
Yeah, it's so curious to see he moves up so very close, not close enough to see who's in the car, but there you see him. He's only about a car length, maybe 2 away, and he's actually holding with him right now.
Yeah, he's getting really close, and the officer, of course, can make announcements on the loudspeaker. So I don't know if it's a situation where he's trying to just get close enough so that he can hear him and tell him to pull over. But obviously, the guy knows he's being pursued.
Yo, an MBA is over here on
and instead is just going to continue here. 91 West, again, 55 is going to be our nearest freeway here. We're in the Anaheim area, entering the city of Orange here. I believe that's going to be the
PT
Tustin
Cruiser. I don't think
coming
it's
up there
PT
soon.
Cruiser.
So appears to be
Nash
moving
B,
over
welcome.
to the
Arab,
right.
what's
Perhaps
up?
this isn't an attempt to
Whimsical.
possibly exit the freeway. We're going to find out very soon.
But right, as
Asian
you
Venom,
point
what's
out,
up?
you know, he's doing 66
Oh, yo,
to
Vino's got
72
a
miles an
golden
hour.
Kappa today.
They would never attempt a pit maneuver at that speed. The optimum speed is well below 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, it would simply be too dangerous because
Shout
it
out
could
to our girl,
possibly
Eliana.
cause that person to lose control entirely, make them overturn or perhaps hit another vehicle. So then, you know, they could possibly be facing something like a lawsuit if they got seriously injured. So that's why they don't attempt it at those speeds. But we just came up to that interchange with the 55, and he's currently set up to continue 91. So there's the Tustin Avenue exit that I kept mentioning. So he's right there where the 55 and the 91 come together, but it does appear like he's going to be sticking to the 91 West.
Is it possible they're holding people back on the entrance ramps to the freeways as well? There seems to be so little traffic.
Yeah, there's so little traffic. I mean, they're just blocked them off.
Yeah, very possible because there's very little traffic to the rear, and we know that those CHP cruisers are running traffic brakes to slow them down. And yeah, what you describe is what in a police term would be a code 100, where the CHP units get on the on-ramps to prevent other vehicles from jumping on the freeway. So that is a high possibility. The area that we're in here belongs to the Santa Ana division of the CHP. So I can tell you that all of those officers have been advised of the pursuit that is making its way here through the area. And as we continue on the freeway, different parts of the CHP can join the pursuit. So they're never going to run out of cruisers or officers because they'll simply just move along down the freeway and add additional officers to the pursuit.
Ileana, is it possible they're trying to move him over to the shoulder area a little bit more so they can throw out a spike strip? Would they try that on the freeway?
We'll be good.
Yeah, that is actually a great point. They do try spike strips on the freeway, and a lot of time they're very successful. And CHP officers are so used to doing this that they have their favorite spots where they will deploy those. So they know that wherever a freeway makes a bend, that's a perfect spot because then the driver likely won't see it as they're coming up to that bend. So they know the strategic locations along the freeway, along all of our freeways here in our area, where they
I'm
know
not
that
Biden.
they can successfully deploy a spike strip, and the driver's most likely about to run it over. At this point, I haven't heard any talk about it on the scanner about them possibly doing it, but it is a high possibility.
Can you give us an idea of location again, exact location at this point? I know he's on the 91 going west, but...
Yeah, 91 going west, coming up to the 57th, so it's going to be our
next
freeway here. You see it there. Where he can merge either north or south on the 57. If he goes south on the 57, it ends at the Orange Crush, which isn't too far.
Hey, what's up, Jimmy?
If he goes north, that ends at the 210, so he'd have a few more options if he went that way. But that was his opportunity right there, and he just passed it. So at this point, it does appear like he's going to continue 91 west. So that's going to put him into areas like
We can't mark off the free space, but the free space counts. It's
as well
just
as the city of Anaheim.
When you press the free space, it resets the car.
You mentioned earlier they ran the plates on this car, and it came back with two names on the registration.
And
so they're not sure if this driver could possibly be armed at this point?
At this point, they haven't mentioned the possibility
DUI
of him
suspect.
being armed.
I mean,
but
I haven't
course,
seen him
officers
driving
will
too
always,
stupid.
out of an abundance of caution,
Just
assume
driving in
that
a
somebody
straight
could be
line.
armed, just because they don't know if that is a possibility. So out of an abundance of caution, when this does come to an end, they will treat it as a high-risk traffic stop. So the officers will draw their guns, they will call the person out of the vehicle, and then they will clear the vehicle as well, just to make sure that nobody is hiding within the car. But at this point, no mention yet about the driver possibly being armed.
Would you, for viewers who are just now joining us, walk us through how this started again? It was in the East LA area.
Yeah, this was East LA. It was with the LA County Sheriff's Department out of East LA. It was on surface streets. I think I remember hearing 4th Street at Cesar Chavez, so around that area. And then that is when sheriff's deputies tried to pull the vehicle over, but he jumped on the freeway. And you can see he's riding the shoulder now. So this is actually some of the most dangerous behavior that we've seen. He was just driving the right shoulder there here on the 91 West. But before this, he was on the 60, then the 15, before jumping on the 91, where we find ourselves now here in the Orange County area. We're in Anaheim, not too far from Disneyland. We're coming up to the 5, but it looks like he may be exiting. So Saru, my pilot here, is going to hold the helicopter a little bit so that we don't overfly it too much, because it does appear that he's going to be exiting. And I'll get you the exit here. It's coming up. I'm seeing it. I believe it's Harbor.
Okay, this might be it.
going to be, it might actually be the
damn.
He suddenly
Avenue
stopped.
exit.
Suddenly stopped here.
Suddenly
Nope.
stopped, but it looks like
Psych.
he might be going. So this is the shared exit for what I believe is Lemon and Harbor. And it looks like he is setting up to go northbound.
Just driving so slow. It's like he's going to pull over right here.
I think he may just be coming to a stop here. So maybe the officers may have advised him to continue going, and they don't want to block the off-ramp there. So he pulled over. I think the exact cross street is going to be Raymond and Orangeburg. So yeah, we're in the city of Anaheim. And this is where things really slow down. So the officers will start to make those commands to the person inside. They're going to clear everybody else out of the way, like that red Jeep that you see there. So they're going to try to clear all other vehicles out of the way.
I'm not familiar with this car.
Officers have their guns drawn. You saw the driver door open there for just a second, and now is when the CHP will begin making those call-outs.
Ileana, that white SUV is CHP as well?
Yeah, so that's
it's a
also
Ford
a
Focus?
CHP unit. I see the driver. He's got his hands out, so that's always a good sign. It means he's likely complying. I'm going to widen out. I want to see how many more officers are arriving. So we've got one CHP officer holding back traffic. We've got 3 officers actively here in the traffic stop. And there is the driver, hands up, again, fully complying. And what they're going to ask him to do is step away from the vehicle because they want to get him as far from that car as possible to make sure he's not going to try to jump back in. He's showing them his waistband because
Always
they want
way
to
too
make
much
sure
optimism
that there isn't a
with this
weapon on
prediction.
him. And once they feel comfortable, they'll either have him get down on the ground or
Snot is
ask him to
cleaning
walk
up along
back
with a few other
towards
people.
them. It just depends on the officers and what their preference is. In this case, it looks like they're asking him to walk back towards him, at which point a couple of officers will approach him and take him into custody.
Plus
and then another team of officers will approach the car
that's
and clear
crazy.
it
That
to
was
make
a
sure
lot
that
of
nobody
channel
else is
points.
inside.
Well, you look at the officers, their body language at this point clearly indicates that they are relieved and this appears to be over.
Yeah, at this point, their demeanor is changing, but I do still see one officer with his gun drawn, and that's just because they haven't cleared the car. Again, they initially thought that only one person is inside, so they will confirm that, though, when they approach the car. You'll even see them pop the trunk open to make sure that nobody is hiding in the back. But again, this was a driver wanted for reckless DUI out of the East LA area, a pursuit that made its way all the way east to Ontario before turning south towards Corona.
What a chase. What's up, Bill? Yeah,
in
crazy.
the city of Anaheim.
All right, once again, if you'd call out the location, the intersection there.
Shout out to
KDL
306 Kenny.
So
he let me know about this one a little before.
Maybe tied up there for a little while.
I found out about it
Marino,
any other way.
Very much.
But yeah, I do have TwitchCon plans
We have
set.
other news tonight.
I do.
More trouble for Sean Diddy Combs. A woman says.
Trouble for Sean Diddy. Yeah. I got all my stuff planned for TwitchCon. I got hotel. I got plane. All of it. Fun chase? Yeah, thanks, Not. It wasn't bad. All right, everybody. Did my thumbs up thing work maybe? Did you guys see it? You saw it at least? Maybe it worked. Probably worked. Anyway, okay. We're gonna call it here. Thanks, everybody. This is the end. This is as late as we get chases. So there will not be another one. There will not be. Do I follow Puffscan? Yeah, I know him. He comes in